Hey everyone, this is Peyton Stilling back with another episode of The Power of Storytelling. And today we have Meagan Funk. Meagan graduated, she started at TCC, ended at Brookhaven. She graduated with a degree in liberal arts, and she is now working in the entertainment industry as an entertainment consultant, and she works with live event production for a company called Artist Uprising. So thank you so much for being on today.
Thanks for having me. You nailed that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's not like I rehearsed it or anything. So I like to get these interviews started from the very beginning. So what was your childhood like growing up? All that stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So I grew up in West Texas. It's the land of high school football and oil. And as I say, nothing that I am remotely interested in.
Yeah.
So I grew up there. I spent 18 years there. So all through high school, just feeling like I wanted to do everything and also nothing at the same time, just because I had very limited exposure of like what the possibilities of life were. So it wasn't really until I graduated high school and moved to the DFW area that that's when I started going to TCC and kind of getting my feet wet in higher education and picking up a couple of like creative odd jobs. That was when I really started to see like, oh my gosh, this world is expansive and there are so many possibilities. And I did go straight into college, right after high school, because I felt like that's what I was supposed to do. And my family definitely encouraged that.
What did your parents
do?
What did your parents do?
So my mom was in like white collar oil, like administrative payroll, a lot of desk jobs. My dad was an independent general contractor my entire life, still is, building, commercial restaurants and high rises. So definitely two different fields. And again, nothing that I really felt like I was interested in. I did have a tiny bit of intrigue in interior design. And I think that's just from going to job sites with my dad and seeing like a bare canvas and then being able to watch it all kind of, all the pieces come together. But that being said, I never realized that I was creative. I wasn't surrounded by creative people. I just knew that I wasn't interested in anything that was going on around me.
Yeah.
I was a total music junkie. I attempted to play some instruments, but was not very good at it. So any music I could just absolutely inhale, I would. And watching, behind the scenes kind of content, like the making of the music videos, and VH1 had a series called Behind the Music, and I didn't care who the musician was. I was glued to the TV. So always super passionate about music and the arts, and didn't really ever imagine I could work in music.
Yeah.
So I thought, I was telling you a bit ago, like I thought the coolest thing I could do was cut and color hair for the rest of my life.
What were you involved in, like any activities in like middle school or high school?
Yeah, so I started doing gymnastics at 4, and I did that all the way through high school. And up until this point of my life, I didn't stick with anything that long. My mom put me in it and I liked it. And I competed on varsity teams and was, I guess, okay at it. But other than that, I mean, I guess I didn't really have any hobbies. Like I said, I just didn't know what there was out there for me. So if I wasn't in school or doing gymnastics, I was I was literally in my room by myself listening to music and like reading the CD booklets like front to back.
Yeah.
So that was my favorite thing to do.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So you didn't really have any creative outlets, but then you decided to go to college because that's kind of what you thought you were supposed to do. How was the college experience for
Oh
you?
man. Yeah. So definitely felt like that's what I had to do. So I was just trying to check that box. I was all over the place. I got to a point where I felt like I was wasting my family's money because I was in a place where they were able to help me go through school as long as I was, doing well. And I actually started out as a genetics major because I was like, biology is cool. I could do like genetic counseling. I'm really good at it. It makes sense to me. Um, and science is cool. So I did that for a year and just didn't feel alive in it.
Yeah.
Like I said, I did really well, but I just wasn't passionate about it like I thought I would be. So just to continue appeasing my family, I stuck with college and just changed my major, took some general like business and marketing classes. And the only thing that I remember about that experience was that I was always in like a brown room with a brown table and like gray walls. And that was my experience with like business classes. And I was like, absolutely not. I don't know. Like, I can't even listen to what they're saying because I'm so just like drained by being here in this environment. So, again, to appease my family, stuck with school a little bit longer and changed my major. And that's when I ended up in liberal arts. And I was studying interior design, really fulfilled by that. But again, just something wasn't right. And so after a year in that program, I had to have a conversation with my mom and my grandmother and let them down gently that I had to go figure out my life and try some other things. So
Yeah.
yeah.
How'd they take that? Were they nice about it?
Um they they wanted to support me, but they also wanted to see me, you know, continue on and
Yeah.
go on to study at a big university and graduate with probably a master's degree or something. And that just isn't, admittedly, I was never good at school, whatever structure they're operating in. It just was not a fit for me. It was always a fight. And I think it's just because I have that creative brain and I need to touch things, I need to feel them, I need to be in this space and dealing with things practically. And I think that's why, working in entertainment and having my hands in like creative direction and brand building and really like overseeing the production of events makes sense for me because I can pull all of those pieces together and it's a tangible experience. So I guess to answer your question, they were not thrilled, but they were like, take a semester, take a year, but if you decide you want to go back to school, your funding stops. Like if you're going to take a break, your funding stops. And I was like, okay, that's the risk I'm willing to take.
Yeah. So what'd you do after?
So I got into the beauty industry. I moved to London. Yeah, I went to a freelance academy out there and studied different kinds of art and came back and got into movies. So I filled like various roles on movie sets. I've done makeup and hair. I've produced. I've done art direction, set design. So just kind of went all in
Yeah.
on movies and TV and found my love of working in music videos, which looking back makes sense. But kind of found my way into my own. "13 years just freelancing in that realm, and was like a really cool experience. But like I said, found my way back to music.
Yeah.
So it's been great.
So did you ever go back and finish your degree, or no?
No, I thought about it.
Yeah.
I thought about it a lot. This is, I don't know where we stand on whether or not this is unpopular opinion, but I feel like society wanted me to go back to college. I feel like I was seeking validation from higher ups. I felt like I was holding myself to this like unrealistic standard of success because and because of that I needed to obtain some sort of like bachelor's or something.
Yeah.
But with 13 years of experience in the world, thankfully I've made some really great connections and formed some really cool relationships and built trust with the people that I know. And that I think speaks way more for me than the typical American college experience. So I don't know that that's everyone's story, but
Yeah.
it worked out for me. I definitely gave a couple of like online courses a shot, and again did really well, but was just like, this is such a time suck. Like, I'm already working, I'm already doing it.
Mhm.
I already have the experience. I don't need to go backwards at this point.
Yeah. So I know that you were doing makeup for movies,
Yes.
corporate things,
Yeah.
videos, and I know that you kind of made a shift from that to doing more entertainment consulting, live events. How is that shift?
Yeah.
It's
It's like the story of the century. I feel like it's like, how did you were doing like what, and now you're event consultant, entertainment consultant. But so I, out of pure passion and a little bit of insanity, a couple years ago, probably 2017, my husband and I started a music series. Um, and we literally just we are passionate about music. He's a musician, and we love the community and just wanted to celebrate them and give musicians a platform to share their music and create authentic connection with the audience of the shows, and share their creative processes and stories behind their songs. And so we did that for several years, just every other month. We partnered with a really cool company that let us use their space for free, just because they are advocates for the arts and artists. So it was a really sweet little gig. And through that, I just really did not realize at the time that I was really exercising my production muscle and being able to build sets and produce and coordinate events from the very first mention of it online and social media through the end, and like follow-up promotion and just everything that goes into that on the day. And for me, the driving force was, like I said, putting these artists on a platform, which means putting them in front of like a quality crowd, and making sure that people are being respectful and coming for the music, but also setting up a green room and making sure that their riders are fulfilled, and not sticking them like in a dark corner in the back of the venue, with bottled water.
Yeah.
Really like honoring them in that experience. And so we got to do that for several years before COVID. And right before everything kind of shut down, we started a video series. So that was a great shift for us, because when people weren't meeting for shows, we had already set up like a live performance video series. So now we get to continue that with, you know, limited crew and a very, you know, intimate space. And so that complements my live event production, and now I'm doing video production, which is insane to me, but super cool, because I think it all just kind of like rounds out that experience, and for me really polishes off that 13 years of freelance, just kind of like hustle that I had to have. So through all of that, I connected with my CEO of Artist Uprising and had an opportunity. We didn't meet because of music. We met at a church. She walked up to me out of the blue, like completely random, and was like, "Hey, y'all look like my kind of people." And I was kind of like, "What?" And she explained that she has this company called Artist Uprising, and they work with a lot of artists, and that we look very creative, and she just wanted to know our story. And
Oh, that's cool.
like, it was so just, I mean, that's when stuff just like completely aligns, you know? And what actually was the funniest part of that is, it was a complete full circle moment, and I didn't know it at the time, but she stops to get our information, and I'm giving her my phone number, and her phone like auto populates and is like, maybe Megan Devon. And I was like, well, that's me. Like, how do you, what? Like, just completely blew my mind. But come to find out, we'd worked with one of her artists in the past. And so it just was like a really cool moment where, you know, things kind of are affirmed, and you're like, okay, I'm exactly where I need to be right now. So yeah, I love looking for those little moments. But after that, we connected, we got dinner, and shared the heart behind, you know, what we were doing in the music community. And it's exactly what her mission is for visual artists and fine artists. So, you know, content, digital creators and designers, sculpturists, muralists, you know, any kind of visual art. She is wanting to create that same platform and connection for them as we were for musicians. So we had a lot to talk about. I think we had like a 4-hour dinner. It was crazy.
I mean, that's amazing. Like, people like that come into your life, and it's like, this is exactly what I've been looking for.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, those moments, I've had several of those moments happen that just kind of leave your mind just like blooming, you know? And I think that's the biggest thing that I try to tell artists now, musicians anyway, is like, you have to let people know you exist. You have to tell people what you're doing, because you never know who you're talking to. I was talking to my future boss 3 years ago and had no idea, you know, and now I'm laying a foundation for an entire entertainment division of her company, which is huge. So that just, and I think that genuinely comes from pursuing the things that make my heart come alive, and then telling people about it.
So now that you work for Artist Uprising, what is a day in the life? Like, what do you exactly do for the company now?
Oh gosh. Okay. So every day feels like it's a little different. So let me think. Lots of emails, lots of video calls. My favorite thing though is going to see spaces in person. We just connected with a like a resident creator at Flock in South Dallas, and it's just such a creative space, you know, and being able to walk in and kind of dream and imagine what could be, as far as, you know, turning that into a performance space, is really awesome. And so we have a lot of meetings like that where I'm going to see a blank canvas essentially, and getting to plan out what that could be. A lot of collaboration. So I'm really thankful that I do work for a creative company because, we all have a shared office space, which is cool because we're never really alone. And we just get to like bounce ideas off of each other. So we'll all be working on our own things and emailing and designing like pitch decks for clients. And then one of us will kind of like poke our head up and say something. And then we're like off to the races, like, concepting the next big event that, so we have these like dreaming sessions, and there's just a lot of room for creativity. So we spend a lot of time doing that. But then there's also like invoicing and, sending out like assets and making sure that banners are getting printed and making sure that people know where they're going to show up on the day of the event, One of the most exciting things that we're working on right now is that we're adding a video component to our podcast. So we're about 21 episodes in on our podcast. And when I came on board, I was like, everything's going to video. We're a creative visual company. Like this is a no-brainer. So next week we're filming our next four podcast episodes, and they'll be the first ones with a video format, which I'm super excited. We're like gonna throw a projector on the wall so the entire space will be covered with the artwork or like album artwork of whoever we're interviewing. Cool. So it's stuff like that where I'm in this really unique position where creativity is nurtured. Even if it's like, like the other day I threw out an idea to somebody that I worked with and they were completely uninspired by it, and that's totally fine. But we still got to like talk through it and go down that path and we both, eventually reached the conclusion that was not going to happen. So that's okay, so it's a lot of stuff like that.
But it sounds like you have a lot of creative freedom to kind of from event production to like finding spaces, podcast, videos, like
I feel very fortunate that I have that creative freedom. When I walked out of my freelance life into this I don't want to say very corporate, but structurally it is a corporate job. I was worried that I was going to lose that creative freedom, and it's actually been heightened. I feel much more empowered and supported, and I'm no longer an island of one. I have
a team.
I have a team of people that I get to collaborate with, and that's been really cool.
I think it's really cool to hear about your job because, especially with this podcast, we're trying to bring awareness to younger kids who are trying to figure out what they want to do with their life. And, people don't talk about jobs like this. And for someone who's creative and is like, oh my gosh, I have to go to college, but I'm a creative person too. And school is not my jam. Like, it is not my jam. And I had the same sort of like freak out about, I want to do what everyone else is doing because it's the normal, but at the same time, I'm creative. I hate school. I don't think it's going to support anything that I really want to pursue in life.
Yeah.
And so it's good to have conversations like this because, younger kids need to hear about these types of jobs too,
I agree. I think that this is really important. If I could go back and like look my 15, 16-year-old self in the face, I would tell her like, you need to like be a little bit more introspective. You need to question why you are going to follow the paths that you're going to follow and really be aware of the decisions. because I think it's unfair that we put such a huge responsibility on teenagers to know what they want to do for the rest of their life.
Mm-hmm.
And that is speaking specifically to the idea of at 18 you need to make a huge life altering decision to go to college and subscribe to this like huge undertaking of, you know, whatever degree you are going to choose ultimately.
Yeah.
So I'm with you.
I think that's so cool. I'm so glad you're in a career that you enjoy and are passionate about. And you're supporting the arts. Let's go.
I know. That is the coolest part of my job, is that I get to advocate for artists.
Yeah.
So my role is in entertainment, and first and foremost, I advocate for musicians and I get them plugged into unique, well-paying opportunities that will elevate their careers, whether that's just like what was I going to say? Whether that is just primarily a private gig that nobody ever knows about, but it pays for their next album,
Yeah.
or, you know, it's a community festival where I get to pay them more than they quoted me, because that's a whole nother topic of knowing your worth and knowing your rates. But I get to pay them well, and they're exposed to a community of people that want to rally around them and support them, and now are forever fans because they got to see them before they were big.
Yeah.
And so I get to do that for musicians, but I'm also seeing now, just because of my work history, like I'm getting to pull in people like Claire Fagan, who is not a musician. She is an amazing photographer and floral artist, and she's building these massive sets. Well, you know Claire. I just pulled her into this like artist feature spotlight that we're building out around her, and we're going to create a gallery of her photos, and we're going to create this like floral backdrop for people to take photos in front of, and it'll be a pop-up gallery that features a really great like Dallas homegrown artist for like 3 months.
Oh,
So yeah, so it's like I get to pull in people from my past, even if they aren't musicians, and just, you know, plug them in and put them into really cool opportunities. And that is the ultimate payout for me.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, last question I have for you. I like to end all of the episodes with this question. What advice do you have to give to young people who are wanting to pursue a career in the music and entertainment industry?
Yeah, I love that question. So for anybody who's wanting to pursue creativity or just music in general, this sounds cliche, but just don't quit. There are so many possibilities as far as music and entertainment go now in 2022, and those will only continue to increase. So keep working on your craft, keep taking vocal lessons, working with a vocal coach. If you're not a singer, just keep practicing your craft on your instrument, whatever that is, because you can always improve, you can always continue growing, and put yourself out there. I mean, the biggest rewards come with big risks. And if that means setting up on a street corner until they kick you out, you know, until the store owner kicks you out, like just do it. Just put yourself out there and don't stop. Something that was really valuable to me to keep me going when I got back from London is that one of the masters that I was studying under said that it took about 10 years for all of your work and all of your experience to kind of culminate into something that people could trust. And so whatever area it is that you're pursuing, give yourself 10 years in that before you start looking somewhere else. And I mean 10 years of full-time, every day, giving it your best. And after 10 years, maybe reassess, but at least devote that amount of time.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, I think if I hadn't been given a mile marker, I think I probably would have thrown in the towel so many times, because it's not easy. It's not easy pursuing creativity as a full-time gig. It can be very disheartening. There's a lot of frustration and tears and cussing and, wanting to give up. And so for me, knowing like, okay, I'm devoting 10 years because I'm really passionate about this, just kept me in it. So yeah.
I love that. Go being creative. Make a career out of it.
It can be done. People are doing it every day.
Yeah, it can be done. You just have to think outside the box.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thank you so much for being on today. And that is a wrap. Thank you guys.